Good evening. Welcome to the Bennington Select Board meeting on July 8th, 2019. I'm Donald Campbell, the chairman of the Select Board, and I'd like to ask everybody to please introduce themselves, starting at the far left with the woman with no mic.
Nancy Lively, secretary.
Bill Scully.
Good evening, Chad Gordon.
Hello, Jeannie Jenkins.
Jim Carroll.
Bruce Lee Clark.
And Jean Connor.
And Stuart Hurd, town manager. I note that we don't have our usual signs out this evening, and that's because we hadn't made one for Bruce, so no one gets one.
That's a good
fair.
approach. Yep, that's a good approach. We have to make a slight agenda change. Why don't we say the Pledge of Allegiance first? And Stuart, would you please lead us in this? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we go into our agenda, we do need to have a brief executive session at the end of this meeting on a legal matter. So I need a motion to amend the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So the first order of business tonight, after having done that, is to move into our consent agenda. We have the minutes of June 17th and June 24th, as well as the warrants which have been circulated, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to look through them. Talk to Stuart about your concerns about questions and typos and such.
And if I could, Donald, just to explain, because the question was asked of me, there are 3 warrants this evening. The first warrant are those checks that were prepaid, where the due date was July 1 through July 7th before we could meet. The second warrant, 25B, is the one of the last warrants of the last fiscal year. And then the third warrant is your first normal warrant for the new fiscal year.
Okay, any discussion on minutes? Is there anyone going to recuse on either of these minutes? If so,
Jean has got a question.
Jean, go ahead.
No, I'm not recusing.
Okay,
I will be recusing.
okay, all right.
Jean had a question.
Did you have a question, Jean?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, I talked to Nancy, the Hayden project on page 7, it was a question that I asked. She's going to add that it's the police station heating and cooling project. It's not really the Hayden project. Hayden is the contractor. So.
Okay.
I had one thing on line 44 of the June 17 minutes. I think I had asked a question, is it an advantage, rather than making a statement, it is an advantage.
Okay. Other questions? Chad, anything from you? No? All set? All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Opposed? Abstentions? There we go. Thank you, sir. All right, so we will be moving into public comment tonight. This is the period of time that we reserve to hear the concerns of citizens. We ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes or so. And the first person we'd like to invite up is Nancy White.
Hi,
Good evening.
I'm Nancy White. I'm very concerned that you have not announced when we will be voting on the Y and on UCS. For 45 years, the local taxpayers have paid to maintain the recreation center and grounds with a clear understanding that this is for public recreational use. Every year we have to vote to approve the budget at the rec center. We have to vote to approve the bonds up there. That land would not be open today had we not maintained it for recreation. I don't understand how you can give part of that property away without voter approval. We keep hearing everything needs to be located in the downtown. We have new groups that have been created to get people out and get moving. Well, we've had that piece of property there just for that purpose for 45 years. I am stunned at the amount of green space that is being taken away. And I think the other people in this town will be too when they see these plans. I don't recall that UCS went through the procedures that all nonprofits go through, getting signatures on a ballot to be on to be able for us to vote yes or no about getting them this property. I think this community action visit plan is a huge issue. It was done 7 years ago. Most people aren't aware of it, but many groups and organizations have been busy behind closed doors, setting up their projects and programs without us being aware of it. They come to a meeting, you give them the okay, and we have these projects and programs dropped on us. So do you think that the lease that you've signed with UCS is legal?
You know, we're going to have this as the item on the agenda.
Oh, tonight it is?
Yeah, we're going to be talking about the UCH and the recreation center expansion. So if we
Okay.
could hold those thoughts until we get to the agenda, that would be great.
And the YMCA, we're going to talk about that too.
Yes, I think that would be part of that conversation,
Okay.
right? Yeah.
And just to add, it's appalling the lack of information we have been provided from the YMCA. They should be more than happy to answer any questions and that we would have. I am stunned that the select board isn't requiring them to give us information. You know, we can't keep giving this town away. And I think we have a small group that is organized, that is taking over how things get done in this town. We have people who have quit voting because they've given up, and that's the reason why. So I think it's time that everybody started sharing information in a timely fashion.
Okay, thank you. The next up is Rose Telford.
I just really want to know, have they hired anybody for the part-time job at the senior center?
Stuart?
Part-time job at the senior center?
Yeah.
I don't think we have a part-time job at the senior center in our budget. No, I'm not, I think we removed that during our budget work sessions as one of the cuts that the board was looking for.
Why?
Because we have personnel at the senior center on a full-time basis now that are shared with, under the rec center budget.
Not really.
Well, thank
Half
you.
the time they don't show up. They don't even half the time know what they're doing, to be quite honest.
Isn't Ms. Fabricius there every day?
I'm not talking about her.
Well, she's our full-time personnel at the senior center.
I said part-time.
I know, we don't have money for that. That was cut.
Oh, I was pretty sure that it was put. So you're essentially counting on all the people that volunteer to pick up the slack that for somebody that you're not paying or ain't gonna pay, ain't gonna have there?
I'm counting on Ms. Fabricius to carry forward with the senior center and to increase programs in cooperation with the YMCA, which they are doing.
One person can only do so much.
That's true. But I think Carrie's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, something's not right.
Thank you, Rose. Pat Kinney?
I think Nancy White hit the nail on the head here tonight. You guys want to give the town away. The YMCA is going to be involved in the senior center too? I'm asking you, Don.
It's not a question and answer period, but go ahead and make your comments.
What do you mean?
This is not a question and answer period. This is the time for you to make your
I do
comments.
this when I was on this board for 14 years. Somebody come in and asked a simple question. We answered it for them.
All right, well, I've
And we
writing
did
your
tell
question
them,
down.
if we can't answer it, we'll come back the next meeting and answer it.
All right.
Now, by the Judas, you guys got to start doing your job and stop giving the town away.
not
Starting
giving
with
the
the
town
rec
away.
center. What's it going to cost us for the kids to play on the fields up there this fall or next fall? You got an answer, Stu?
It's going to cost you the same that it's costing you today.
You're positive?
I am absolutely positive.
All right. And this water and sewer hike of 17%, come on. No wonder, if I didn't live here all my life and I wasn't as old as I am, I'd get the heck out of here. And that's the way a lot of people feel in this town. And the Bennington banner, we might as well have nothing. They don't even tell or put it in the paper what goes on at this cotton picking meeting anymore. Jim Therian, when I was on the board, things were in the banner the next day. You guys don't want it in, or what? I'm asking the board.
You should ask the banner, probably.
What do you mean, ask the banner? You're chairman now, right?
Yeah, we're doing our business. This is our business meeting. It's happening in a public setting. You're welcome to be here. We're glad to have you here, and we're glad to hear your comments. But this is a citizens' comment period. Anything that you bring up to right now has not been warned and is not available to anyone else.
Okay. Did we buy land just so we could have that highway garage over there after we bought the new garage?
I don't understand the question.
I don't understand the question either.
Did you have to buy more land to have room to have the highway garage and salt shed over there?
No, no. We did purchase with the bond monies, the land adjacent.
With the bond money?
Yes, land
Okay.
adjacent to it, but it wasn't required in order to renovate the facility.
How much money is in this year's highway budget to maintain that building over there, bring it up to?
That I can't answer off the top of my head, Pat.
I'll be here in 2 weeks, okay?
Mike Bethel. Would somebody please adjust that microphone?
You can hear me, right, Mr. Cutler? I know you could, buddy. I agree with what's been said. You guys got to stop acting. You guys all live in this community, and it's pathetic. But anyway, you're going to talk about the fine thing later on the agenda. Is that on it?
We are going to talk about the assurance of discontinuance, yes.
Okay, and people are going to get to speak under that because it's on the agenda, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Okay.
All right, next order of business is a service agencies for senior presentation. This is part of a series that the vice chair and I have worked on setting up that, as many of you know, we're trying to spread out over a series of several months. And tonight we'll be looking at some of the services and agencies that serve our seniors. So Shannon, would you be willing to set this up for us, please? Thank you.
Okay. The select board invited me to ask our community partners to these public meetings to introduce some of the social service agencies and programs in the Bennington community. So today we're highlighting the programs for our seniors, and I want to introduce Ilsa Svoboda from Meals on Wheels, Jennifer Plouffe from the Southwestern Vermont Council on Aging, Kathy Alberti from Green Mountain RSVP, and Becky Arbella from SASH, Support and Services at Home. And I'll just let each of you come up and talk about what you offer in Bennington. I'm Shannon Barsati, the Community Development Director for the town of Bennington.
I'm sorry, that was my omission. Thanks for pointing that out.
Hi, I'm Ilsa Svoboda. I'm the Executive Director for Meals on Wheels here in Bennington County. We deliver over between 250 and 300 meals per day, making that here in the Bennington kitchen, the commissary, which is the bottom floor of the senior center, which is owned by the town. We are not funded through the town, and we pay rent to the town. I also have 5 sites, which are in Bennington, Manchester, Arlington, Stamford, and Pownell. Our Pownell one is on hold right now for the summer. Most of our clients are home-delivered clients. Our mission for Meals on Wheels is to keep people in their homes. And I don't know if anyone saw the newspaper about 2 months ago. We had an article where we're actually hurting. Our main funding comes from the Council on Aging, and we have a deficit of $30,000. So I had written a letter, and I know I want to talk about our agency, but I had written a letter to Stu to ask if we could hold off paying our rent to the town for the remainder of our fiscal year, which is September 30th. So that would be approximately sorry about that, my glasses, $3,460, which would be June through September. If we didn't pay July through September, it'd be $2,595. In the course of the the article that was written in the newspaper, we did have an anonymous donor, but with the understanding that we do a community challenge of $15,000. So we're putting that out in the banner this week. So like I said, our main funding comes from the Council on Aging, which we have to make up the rest, which is through private donors, grants, or fundraising events. What we're finding is that private donations are low this year because people aren't getting accredited for their donations. It's also that grants aren't as feasible as it is when I apply for a grant. A year or two ago, maybe 2 or 3 agencies were applying, but because there's about 3,000 nonprofits in Vermont, there's one grant, there was over 150 people, 150 agencies applying for it. So applying for a $2,500 grant, I get $250. Like I said, our mission for Meals on Wheels is to keep people in their homes and to give them a nutritious meal and to socialize them in our center, in our sites. They come, they walk. I think that here in the county, transportation is needed for seniors. Some of them, I had a woman walk 2 miles to get a meal. She said she waits too long for a ride, so she has to, from other agencies, so she has to, she decided to walk the 2 miles. She left her walker at home, and so somebody picked her up. But these are, I have story after story. The problem is that we had to cut back, and so up in Burlington, it's my understanding that they deliver 1 meal, 7 frozen meals, and that's once a week. I don't want the Bennington Meals on Wheels to turn into that. I think that part of why some of our clients are doing so well is because we deliver daily, and that well visit is so important. I mean, we have people that drive 45 minutes for one client out in Rupert and Peru and Winhall that need our services. So on my note to you is that, Stu, is that I wrote to you that we were going to discuss it with the select board to possibly hold off with the rent. So that's a side note, but we don't have an affiliation with, aside from Carrie and I trying to do activities together. Even though we're in a town building, we pay the rent. All of our equipment is over 15 or 20 years old, so all of that is starting to stop working, and our closest company for our stoves is 2 hours away. So just for them to come down for our stoves is over $400. So aside from that, I guess that's, the asking was that if I could, hold off on the rent. So that's something I guess you have to discuss. We are funded generously through the Council on Aging. However, we have to make up that difference. And through the Older Americans Act, all adults 60 and above are entitled to a meal however they get it. So we have a suggested donation, but on our suggested donation of $4, it's 86 cents that we get. So I'm hoping that people are aware of how our seniors in this community need the help, and part of that nutrition and socialization will keep them out of hospitals. The return of a hospital due to a fall is 3 months, and I think that we're saving a lot of lives by having our drivers go and see the people and sit with the people and cut their grass and change their hearing aids and feed their cats, aside from the meal. So thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll do questions at the end to make sure we have a chance to have everybody present, and then we'll ask questions to everybody. Is that all right?
She's there. The questions are on my mind right now. Why not ask her?
Well, because...
We'd like to get through everybody in our period of time here. Hang on, Jim. We'll get there. So please.
Is it okay if I go to the
Absolutely. In fact, to Jim's point, after you've given your presentation, perhaps you all could go up there, and we could ask you questions as a group.
For the select board, if it's okay with Rich?
Please.
If you just want to go ahead. Sure. They're separated. There's our annual report and our agency guide. So each person gets that.
Yeah, so please introduce yourself and give us a little context.
So thank you for the invitation to come to the select board on this beautiful, very lovely weather outside today. My name is Jennifer Plouffe. I am the Aging Services Director for the Southwestern Vermont Council on Aging. I'm also the Bennington Office Manager. We are housed in Bennington, right over at the Benmont Mill building on the second floor. I've been with the agency for almost 4 years now. And part of what I have been working on is helping the Council on Aging become more visible in the community, because we do a lot of good work. People just don't know who that is that's doing that good work. They have some nice, we'll hear our clients often say, I don't know, we got some nice blonde girl that comes into the house and she helps me with my paperwork, or she helps with this or that. And so having the opportunity to come here to really put a face to the agency and also describe the services. So we cover both Bennington and Rutland counties. So we are the southwestern corridor, and we cover, Bennington covers all the way into Dorset and sometimes Mount Tabor. So our case managers are road warriors. I have about 5 full-time case managers out of the Bennington office, and then we have another 7 to 8 that are out of the Rutland office. The Council on Aging has worked very hard to partner with the hospital systems in both counties, so Southwestern Vermont Medical Center as well as Rutland Regional. We are partnering to try to reduce readmission rates, and part of the ways that we do that is through a variety of the programs that I'm going to describe to you. One of which is our case management program. So we serve anybody 60 and over. So we have a couple different categories of clients. We have what are considered our older American Act folks. So that's anybody 60 or over who calls our senior helpline, which is the 1-800 number. That's our point of access. How referrals are generated and how they're divvied up between the 2 territories. That person may just need to talk to somebody on the senior helpline, get a little bit of understanding about what services and supports are out there. And oftentimes that can be taken care of 1 or 2 calls over the senior helpline. If there's something that's going on with the person, whether it's a neighbor, a caregiver, the client themselves, and they are wanting to have a case manager come out, that's when a referral comes to me. I assign it based on territory for one of our case managers. The important thing to remember is we are client directed. So while it can be a little tricky for people out in the community to have great concerns about their neighbor, their loved one, their spouse, short of there being some cognitive impairment that makes that person really not able to make those decisions, we really value client self-determination, and so we work really hard to have this kind of long-term relationship building process so that as time goes on, they kind of get to know who we are, and we're able to kind of build that relationship. So as the need changes, they're a little bit more kind of set at ease for kind of the next steps. Our biggest task, I would say, is really working to keep people living in the setting of their choice. And we work with a lot of folks who are nursing home level of care, but also qualify for the state's Choices for Care program. And for those of you who are not familiar with that, that is a Medicaid waiver program that helps to pay for services and supports in home instead of having those services rendered in an institution, a nursing home, rehabilitation facility, or the like. And there's a cost-saving feature to that. It's much more expensive to maintain people's health and well-being in that setting. And as you can imagine, we all want to, I mean, I can assume, I think nursing homes have a place when the need is there, but most people really want to be able to age with dignity and independence in the setting of their choice, which is usually the home that they've worked really hard to pay off their mortgage and continue living in. So we work really, really hard to do that. Our mission is to be a community force in creating and sustaining opportunities for seniors or older Vermonters and caregivers in our region to help assure elders are able to maintain maximum independence and quality of life. So how we do that is through our case management program, as well as our options counseling program. Our options counselor is a nurse who will go out and really talk to people who are really in the phase where they're trying to kind of pre-plan for their future and, you know, what options are out there, what happens if this happens, what happens if that happens. This person is very well versed to be able to kind of go through all of the various options, refer to a long-term planning attorney, who we have a couple of those that we can refer to for those folks who are over-resourced for the state programs. We, like Elsa had said, we partner with Meals on Wheels. We have our nutrition programs for both counties. The vendors are different. So Bennington, we work with Meals on Wheels. Here in Bennington, in Rutland, it's a different vendor, but same thing, home delivered meals, congregate meals, all of the things that Elsa highlighted about the importance of social interaction, the social determinants of health, keeping people out of facilities, keeping people living in the settings of their choice, healthy nutrition, wraparound services, things that really help people age in place and do it well. We also have a wellness program, so we have a nutritionist who will go out and if somebody's struggling with chronic conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, those types of kind of pervasive chronic illnesses, she can go out, really kind of look at what's going on with them nutritionally, recommend various diets. She's also been part of approving the Meals on Wheels menus. She reviews those as part of her contract. We also have senior companion and volunteer programs that we work with, and our senior companion coordinator looks to kind of recruit volunteers for folks that are having a hard time kind of getting out of their home. Maybe they need a friendly visitor, telephone reassurance. Maybe they need someone to come and help them go grocery shopping, play cards, a whole variety of things, but an extra set of eyes, increase socialization, which helps to decrease depression and other negative health consequences. We have our National Caregiver Support Program, so we provide powerful tools for caregivers, a whole variety of ways to really shore up those caregivers who are at high risk for burnout, and how we have some respite programs that we help facilitate with different buckets of money that we get and we piece together. We have our state health insurance program coordinator, so she is really integral during open enrollment for those folks who are new to Medicare, or those folks that are leaving their current employment and they might want to keep their insurance coverage, but they don't know how that's going to kind of work. She is that program is massively underfunded, but the need is increasing. So she is our ace in our back pocket. None of us are experts at it, but she works very hard to stay up on all of the different changes and regulations at the federal level. And open enrollment, for those of you that don't know, is, I believe, October 15th through December 7th. And that is a good chunk of time where people are calling in, wanting individual meetings, walking through all the different insurance options, Medigap plans, Advantage plans, supplemental plans, Medicaid, Medicare, Part D, prescription coverage. It's a lot. And I would argue that her services and supports in particular work just as hard to keep people out of having to be admitted to the hospital, because those who are uninsured oftentimes don't go to the doctors, and so we see this pattern, and so just kind of wanted to plug that intensely. We have an elder care clinician we partner with through the designated agency, who part of the Older Americans Act is to be able to see those people in their homes instead of having them have to come out to kind of an office where oftentimes the stigma about having to go to a mental health provider can be a challenge and can be a barrier to people accepting services. So this person actually goes into the home, is able to do some therapy, some assessments, and to really provide some of those services, mental health services, that those folks wouldn't otherwise be able to receive. We have a money management program. We also have we have a representative payee program. So we have about 119 people that the Council on Aging is rep payees for. We also partner with Bennington Project Independence around transportation, and as well as Green Mountain Express. And I think that's it in a nutshell. We do a lot. And we want to continue to be a presence in the community. I'm hoping to start and maybe talk to some of the town select board members here about maybe putting Bennington on the map in such a way that we start a National Night Out initiative, which is a national program. I was surprised to hear that Bennington doesn't have one. But that's in the work. I'm partnering with a few different people now to try to see if we can get that up and running next year. It happens the same Tuesday every August, every year across the nation. And it's a great way to pull community partners together, police, town boards, fire department, families, seniors, elders, just a great way to kind of get everybody together and have a good time. So that's it.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's a really impressive suite of services. Do plan to come up afterwards and we'll hit you with some questions.
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening.
So hello, thank you for having us. I'm Kathy Aliberti, the Director of Green Mountain RSVP. We are a federally funded senior core program, and we are sponsored by the Southwestern Vermont Council on Aging. So basically, Green Mountain RSVP, we are matchmaker with folks 55 and older to volunteer opportunities at nonprofit organizations. So first off, as far as what we do for seniors, we provide volunteer opportunities, which we're learning more and more provide, reduces depression, chronic pain, stress, social isolation. It increases physical activity, mental functionality, sense of purpose, and social connection. We are meeting the needs of seniors in Bennington by recruiting volunteers who offer companionship, help with money management and bill paying, some of the programs Jennifer spoke of. We try very hard to help ILSA with Meals on Wheels volunteers. We have a great successful tax aid program in Bennington. They do, I think, over 700 tax returns each tax season, approximately. We partner with Green Mountain Community Network to provide transportation for seniors. Specifically in Bennington, we offer 5 bone builder classes, which is a great program. We certify and train volunteer leaders. The space is donated different places, Senior Center being one of them that we started up about a year ago. And there's about 50 to 75 people in Bennington alone participating in those twice per week classes. So those are huge, not only for the bone benefit, but also the socialization. I'm not going to speak too much longer. It's just something I'm excited about that is a new initiative for us. Is we're going to hope to train some volunteers to educate seniors, their neighbors on elder justice. So there'll be little sessions going on either at our office or places around town where volunteers will be doing these trainings on recent scams. There's so many resources out there that I can use to help volunteers do these trainings. So we'll partner with Jennifer on that, who also will do similar things on self-neglect. So that's basically in a nutshell. I'm the matchmaker, and it's a great little job, and if anyone knows anyone that volunteers, I probably have an opportunity for them. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Becky Arbella from Shires Housing Sash, and unfortunately, I don't have any flyers for you. I can email them to Shannon. I just found out about this afternoon, and I thank you for inviting us. SASH stands for Support and Services at Home. We are a Medicare-funded program. However, Medicare does not meet our whole funding. Shires Housing helps fund the rest of us. I'm the implementation manager here in Bennington County and parts of Windham County, the Deerfield Valley section of Windham County. My main goal, obviously we want people to live healthy in their life, but socialization is huge for me. So we offer a huge array of socialization programs, and we've partnered with Carrie at the Senior Center, and we offer free Tai Chi classes beginning through advanced. We offer flower arranging. We've offered no stroke presentation for people to become aware of stroke. We now partner with the Bennington Rec Center. Taylor, I believe her name is. One of our coordinators actually does water Tai Chi. When we talked about it, there is no real water Tai Chi in Vermont until now. It is. Thanks to Shires Housing, they actually pretty much give us free reins to volunteer and help the community. They're very community-minded. One of our big things right now, it's yes for seniors, but it's for all of residents, is Applegate. Shires Housing owns Applegate, and several years ago, the food bank stopped coming there for whatever reason. It took me 2 years. I got it back. We've had 2 food drops so far. The third one is Wednesday. It's open to anyone in town that has a need. From 12 to 1, anyone can come to Applegate and shop for free. We don't take names. We don't take any information except for a phone number that I can call if there's a food recall. That's all the information we take. On that same day, Stephanie has approved me to change my hours. I now work from 5 to 7 at Applegate, again for the whole community. We do a cooking demonstration. We do food tasting around what the food bank brings that day. What I was seeing in my work is even our seniors, a lot of them still work. We have to. And people that work still have a huge food need. So by catching people coming home from work, the last 2 months we've served each month over 100 families here in Bennington. So if you know of people or you want to put that word out, that we would be grateful for that. Along with that, we also operate 2 durable medical equipment closets. So we take in durable medical equipment, we clean it up, we make sure it's safe and sound, and then we loan it out for free. Right now we have 6 hospital beds, 5 scooters. I don't even have a count on wheelchairs, walkers, commodes, shower chairs. But if someone has a need, they do not have to be on SASH. They do not have to be a Shires resident. All they need to do is call us and we'll get it to them. We have several of the doctor's offices calling us now with needs. As Jennifer said, we're embedded also in the hospital. We work very closely with everyone here, and everyone here is pretty amazing, I have to say. We just really need services here for our seniors, we really do. These are people that worked all their lives. So I am just thankful to be here to help them.
Awesome, great.
And I can't tell you what we do in 5 minutes, so.
No.
Thank you.
We recognize that this is a difficult assignment. And it's not meant to be a deep dive, but more of an overview of what is available in our community, and to keep reminding people what's available, but also to make sure that people are able to contact you when they need to. So all right, we know you.
My turn. I'm Carrie Fabricius, and I'm the program manager at the Bennington Senior Center. It always amazes me that people still don't know that Bennington has a senior center. It's at 124 Pleasant Street. We are 4 doors up from your Belly's Deli, on the same side of the street. So I know I got a newsletter, one of our newsletters, into everybody's packet. I made sure that
Very good.
nobody got away
Very
without
good.
one.
Yeah.
Our senior center is actually available to people 50 plus, which always surprises people. They're, when you're 50, you don't think of yourself as a senior. It's something that's available to people that when a lot of other programs really aren't available to them until 60. And I'm lucky enough to be able to work with all these ladies, because what we do at the senior center would never happen without all those agencies. Like Becky said, SASH right now is teaching Tai Chi. They went through and showed Taylor Haynes, who is our health and wellness director through the YMCA. She's teaching an Eat Smart, Spend Smart class in the afternoon, on Monday afternoons, first and third Monday of the month. So she's also teaching silver sneakers. SASH does a flower arranging class. Our transportation costs for our shopping trips are funded through the Council on Aging. They do an 80% match, and our seniors only pay 20%, which is awesome. We would never be able to do those trips without the Council on Aging. RSVP, oh my gosh, I have, I think, currently seven or 8 RSVP volunteers. The senior center wouldn't run without them. We're really lucky. And we do have other volunteers that aren't RSVP volunteers. I'm incredibly lucky that I have the dedication from our volunteers that I do. And of course, we have people that are upstairs, downstairs, a lot with Meals on Wheels. We try to do some things together, kind of reach 2 different sets of people, but at the same time, our goals are the same for everybody here, which is providing a safety net for seniors in our community, and trying to fill the gaps in that net so people don't fall through. The senior center we've really been trying to beef up our health and wellness offerings, especially through our partnership with the YMCA. But at the end of the day, people may be coming for that class, for a Tai Chi class, or they may be coming for the Silver Sneakers class, or they may be coming, we have a group that goes walking on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons now at 3 p.m. around the town. My feeling was, I think people should be able to walk through the town and see some of the really unique features of our town that you don't notice when you're driving around. For example, on the Drysdale building, when you're going by, 3 windows in a row have little iron flower pot holders on the windows. And it's such a neat little feature, but you don't notice it when you're driving because you don't get to look up so much. I totally lost my train of thought there. You notice that? Yep, totally lost my train of thought. It's gone. The senior center is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. We've discussed at some points the possibility of being able to extend those hours depending on staffing. So it may be that we offer something later on in the afternoon, because we do have those seniors that are still working. Being able to have, say, a yoga class that's 5 to 6 after people get out of work would be really sweet to be able to offer. And if we've got the space, we should be putting it to use instead of letting it sit flat. Our mission at the senior center is to engage people 50 plus in the lifelong learning process. So, back to my thought, which was, although people may be coming for those specific classes, it really is the social isolation piece that we're working against. The health ramifications of social isolation have been equated to, last time I read it was like smoking a pack and a half of cigarettes a day, which is staggering to me. And so what we do in working with all these other things is to keep people engaged and active, happy, keeping them out of hospitals, nursing homes, all that fun stuff. You've already heard it from everybody else. So although we do have all these other classes, I think our big thing is getting people there to be able to develop those relationships with other people in their community.
Great. That's excellent.
Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Carrie.
Shameless plug here. If anyone needs a newsletter, I have a whole bunch of them, if anybody else wants one.
All right, looking for some 50-year-olds, are you? Yeah. Anybody else? No? So if that's the crew, I would invite maybe all of you to come up to the podium if you'd be willing to do this. I'm not sure which questions the board will have, but I'm sure the board will have questions. This is a board that does tend to have questions. And can't guarantee which direction this will go in, but before we get started, first of all, thank you all very much for what you do for our community, and thank you very much for coming out tonight and giving us a brief summary. I realize that a brief summary is sometimes harder than a long summary. What's that quote about? If I'd had more time, I would have written a shorter letter or something like that. So I'm really glad that you were able to do this for us tonight. Thank you. So questions from the board. And we can take them in any particular order. I'm not necessarily going to go down the line tonight. Bruce, go ahead.
This is for Meals on Wheels. I was fortunate enough to know your chef and also to go and visit, I think with Don and Shannon. Do you have right now a wish list of kitchen needs and the costs involved with those? Because I know that you have at least one oven that has to be banged on in order to get it to go.
Right.
And there's some other things. So do you have an actual wish list?
Yes, I do. I don't have it to hand over to you right now, but I absolutely have a wish list.
And that's one question. Second question is, do you pay rent at the other sites other than the senior center?
No.
Thank you.
May I?
Jim, go ahead.
With respect to the rent for your kitchen, how many meals would you be able to augment without having to pay the rent?
How many meals?
How many additional meals would you be able to prepare?
So it costs $11.05 to make a meal.
$11.05 per meal.
Yes. Between the transportation of getting it there, gas costs, insurances, all of our volunteers and paid staff have to be insured. So from start to finish, it costs $11.05 to make a meal.
So without the forgiveness of the rent, you won't be able to deliver as many meals?
We actually had to stop delivery of every day. We have to do a few frozens. Most people get 5 to 7 days, so our weekends are frozen. However, like say for example, Pownell right now is being delivered 3 days a week. So they're getting frozens on those other days. So they'll get the hot meal, and then on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and all other days they get a frozen meal. And my concern with that is that some people don't have a microwave, some people don't know how to heat up a meal, and they don't have all of that space in a refrigerator if they even have a refrigerator. So it would be saving us, I don't have a calculator, but
313 extra meals.
Yeah, correct.
Per month?
Pardon?
No, that's for the total cost.
The cost. Yeah, so the rent from July to September would save us $2,595, which...
So you'd be able to provide more meals?
I'm sorry?
You'll be able to provide more meals?
Oh, yes, we'd be able to send people out more than just Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, or Tuesdays, Thursdays. We had to do some rearranging of the meals, the meal delivery. So we would be able to provide more meal delivery.
Well, I think it's, I want to echo Donald's sentiments with respect to all of you and say thank you, but just the thought of a senior in this community going hungry ought to break everybody's heart. The one question that I have for each and every one of you, I didn't think I heard, is how do older people or their children contact you folks? How do you start the process to engage in your services?
Do you want to answer to that, or do you want to do it? So we have our senior helpline number, which is 1-800-642-5119. Essentially, you call that number from
Can you say that again?
Yes, 1-800-642-5119. That's our point of access for Council on Aging services, but we also do Meals on Wheels intake through both our Rutland and Bennington offices as well. So we do partner heavily, like Elsa was saying, with Meals on Wheels, and we work hard to support each other. But that helpline number, it's now considered the SVCOA helpline instead of senior helpline, since the political correctness is shifting around senior versus elder. So we like to say older Vermonters are more than welcome to call our SVCOA helpline. Again, 1-800-642-5119.
With respect to the outreach, is there a database that you can go to that would identify a specific group of people so that you could reach out to them, or are you dependent on people coming to you?
We're attached to the state's database. So let's say somebody calls us and they have concern about their neighbor. What we can do is look up in our state database and see if we're already connected to them. If it's not us, maybe it's the VNA or one of the other home health agencies, but that's kind of the database that we work off of, but we don't have kind of like that clearinghouse database of, I think that you're referencing. We do a lot of outreach. We have a community development person that's part of our co-director's model that helps to kind of make sure that we're out there in the different papers, all the different initiatives, whether it's a new to Medicare class or an elder senior advice clinic, which we just hosted a couple Fridays ago, which was book solid. So we really just try to kind of push this out. We have Facebook, website. We have a variety of different mechanisms that people, if they're looking at just even typing in SVCOA, should take them to some point of entry for our services.
One final question, I promise. Do you have an estimate as to unmet need?
Yes. Well, I don't have a hard numbers estimate, but based kind of on what I see on a regular basis, we have a massive, I would say that we are at the precipice of a caregiver shortage, a crisis, really, whether it's formal caregivers, informal caregivers, whether it's through the home health agencies versus family members. What we're seeing is we have a demographic of older Vermonters who are aging, and we see kind of an exodus of younger folks, and you don't really have to crunch the numbers too hard to see that there's a massive gap there. So that is one of the biggest unmet needs that we are constantly, and myself in particular, talking to the state about, the Department of Aging and Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living. I'm constantly advocating for that, for them to make some changes at the state level. Senior housing, I think, or housing in general, is an unmet need. Access to high quality and affordable health care, as well as nutrition. There's always going to be a need because we have a wave of people that are coming down the pike, that have been coming down the pike, that was predicted back during the baby boom generation. That it shouldn't be a surprise to us now that it's here. So we've had plenty of time to prepare. So, but yes, lots of unmet needs.
Okay, thank you.
So our referral process is a little different. SASH has a website, sashvt.org, that anyone can refer, anyone 65 or older, or with a disability. The prerequisite is they have to have Medicare for their primary insurance. Along with that, the majority, I would say probably 80% of our referrals come from the doctor's offices and the hospitals. They refer directly to us. We service in Bennington alone approximately 200 seniors or persons with a disability. We were supposed to cut that number down last year for SASH numbers to work, but how do you say no to someone and tell them they can't join your program? So again, luckily, Stephanie at Shires Housing is pretty amazing, and she lets us see people that we're not even getting funded to see, to try to help just bridge the gap a little. So there's a huge need out there, huge need.
Any other, yeah, go ahead.
We don't receive referrals so much at the senior center because we are a little younger than the rest of the groups. But we certainly field a lot of phone calls asking for information. So actually, right next to our phones, we have a list of all these different agencies. So we field a lot of phone calls, and then we send a lot of people to the Council on Aging. We do have people ask for volunteering opportunities. I send people downstairs to ILSA all the time. So it's one of the things that we've been looking at is developing like a newsletter for the senior center, rec center, to be able to tell what our offerings are. But I had also mentioned, we're working with Al Bashevkin, and mentioning to him, I would really like to see a resource page for all these different entities, because a lot of, I can't tell you how many times people say, I don't even know what SASH is, what is SASH? And if people don't know the basic, if they've never heard of it, how are they supposed to know that they can access it? So having that information available in each place, for that matter, just say, look, so everybody has the same information here. Here's everything, all the contacts, all the phone numbers.
That's a really good idea.
Would be beneficial.
Make it much more accessible to everybody, yeah.
If I could just add on that, I haven't done it in a couple of years, but I've done nonprofit fairs, and maybe this is something we could talk about. The first couple of years, it was pretty well attended. It kind of got a little slow for the last year, but I think the nonprofits that would attend, and some of you guys were there, found that it gave them a chance to network with each other. And so many people are doing similar things, and it was a great opportunity for organizations to talk to each other to see how they could maybe not duplicate efforts. So if we ever want to do some wellness fair with other people in this room that I kind of see, I'd be very interested in working together and doing something in that vein again.
I think, as a town, we'd be very supportive of that too. It's very difficult for us. We supposedly know what's going on, and yet we really don't have a good sense of how all the different organizations work and overlap. And, so we have some concerns about whether or not efforts get repeated at different levels. And of course, a lot of items go on the ballot every year. So it would be nice to know that all those funds were being spent efficiently. So I think that's something that we would love to be supportive of if there was a role for the town in sort of helping convene that, to make sure that everybody was on the same page and being as efficient as possible.
The whole idea of duplication of services, we really want to try to kind of stay away from. I know we all do a really good job if we know that somebody is kind of the expert at one thing, that we kind of refer to those folks. But I just wanted to really quickly say, the Council on Aging, their senior helpline, and on their website, I don't know if you're familiar with the 211 concept of, like, you call 211 and from that point you should be directed anywhere essentially for what you're looking for. Council on Aging has a list of resources for all of Bennington and all of Rutland counties that is available right on the website. It's a drop-down menu. You just go in, you can print it out, you can view it, screenshot it, do whatever you want. But our INA folks, our information and assistance folks, work on updating that twice a year so that we keep it as relevant and as up-to-date as possible.
Great. Other questions from the board? Go ahead, Chad.
Carrie, do you create this?
Yes.
Is it possible to make a PDF and share it digitally versus?
Well, that was another one of the things that we're looking at. So, yeah, we're working on it.
Okay.
That's the short answer.
Okay.
We're short on time, but yeah.
Good answer.
Good answer. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just carry one last question? Yeah.
Jump in.
Okay. No, you guys have done an amazing job, and all my questions got answered, except for, is there a 5:30 meeting occasionally to talk about senior center? It's like a senior center update, or am I just completely making this up?
No, I think what you're referring to coming up would be the Pulse meeting, which has to do with the UCS build-on with the rec center. So they're going to hold that meeting at the senior center. think the next one is August 21st, right? Yes, at 5:30.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just had one
Yeah, go
question. Just to follow up, Ilse, I think I had sent some questions about the letter you sent in late May, and I didn't hear back, and I just wanted to make sure that we connected that somehow. I just had a few questions that had to do with the request and the profit and loss and things like that. I want to make sure we do our due diligence before the town goes funding not for profits and not putting that out to the voters. I think that you're not just important, but vital in what you do. I just had a few questions, and I wanted to make sure we didn't lose them or drag on any longer than we needed to.
Okay. No, and Stu's been very good with trying to negotiate how we could utilize the large room in the back, possibly for meetings or so, and we're open to that for sure. Okay.
You have a wide service area though too, right? Ilse, you serve not just Bennington, but I hear you saying you drive up 45 minutes up to Rupert and Paulet, and
Right.
you have quite a large territory.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on Jennifer is that when people call us first at Meals on Wheels, it's usually a frantic daughter in Virginia saying that, I don't know why my parents moved back to their ski house in Stratton, and then a spouse may pass away, and now they're up in Stratton by themselves. Now, how are they going to eat? So, like I said, that well visit is we check on them to make sure they have heat, water, and then we refer back to Council on Aging so that a case manager can go out. So that's, that well visit that we do is more than, I hate, to quote it, but it's more than just a meal that we do.
Jean?
The first thing I want to say is it shouldn't go unnoticed, you're all women. Thank you. I have a lot of questions. I'm not going to ask them all. Are a lot of the agencies you work for, are they part of the discharge plan when people are leaving the hospital or maybe a rehab center? Okay, so it really is, a lot of it is health related and people plugging in services before they just send people on their way. That's great. Let's see, this is Council on Aging. Can caregivers participate with their loved ones in program? I know you said it's client driven, but caregivers are allowed to accompany their loved one to.
Not only are they allowed, but they're encouraged.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Let's see. SASH. SASH has not been in existence very long, and it's grown exponentially. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay.
So it came about in 2011 up in Burlington at Cathedral Square Housing Authority. They were noticing that they have hundreds of senior and apartments for people with disabilities. And as people were aging out or becoming more disabled, they were having to leave their home and go into either nursing homes or assisted living. And it's proven that people do not age well in congregate housing like that. So Cathedral Square did a pilot program on their own and started bringing all the services in. And one of the things they do monthly, and we still do at every one of our SASH panels, is have a team meeting. So we invite Council on Aging, visiting nurse, Bayada, in Bennington, BPI, UCS, and we all sit and brainstorm around. We might have like 10 people that have special needs that we really need to wrap our heads around, and we can all sit at the table and just have a conversation of what to do next.
That's great.
They were finding out that in the first few years, it stopped their turnover of housing, so they proposed it to Medicare. Medicare took it on for first a 3-year pilot program, then an additional 2-year, and now it's set in stone as long as funding's there. They figure it saves Medicare anywhere approximately $1,800 per person per year.
Wow.
Of savings, of keeping them out of the hospital. Wow. And to answer the discharge plan, we actually, I just had a meeting with the transitional nurses and that. We're actually invited to the meetings for the discharge, so that we know any services they may need or any services they're already being referred to, so that we can follow up and just make sure basically the participant is willing to accept those services. We find that the people with the most needs have the least wants. So we want to make sure that they're being covered. Along with that, we go to all the community care meetings at the hospital, and we're also part of the opioid task force at the hospital. And most people say opioid, that's younger people. You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
That's great.
And the
Thank you
other
very
thing,
much.
it doesn't seem like duplication of services is an issue. It seems like you all really have your vision and your mission, and it's just amazing, the cooperation and it seems like there would automatically be duplication, which is, not very efficient, but you seem to have really done a great job not duplicating services.
So we have our set goals. So if we need applications or something done, that's an automatic referral from SASH to Council on Aging. If it's just social isolation, a lot of times the case managers will call us and say, hey, can you get them involved in this? So it's really not a duplication of services.
Right.
And in my book, if we're duplicating once or twice, we're not leaving out. I'd rather have one or two duplications than a miss.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, unless there are other questions from the board, I'd maybe risk a summary and say that you all are doing wonderful work to kind of help us fight social isolation and to try to keep people at home and healthy as long as possible. That's really important work for us. So thank you for all you do, and please be in touch as things move along. We, of course, don't have a lot of money to give because we only have taxpayer money, and as long as the taxpayers are indicating they want money to go to your entities, then that's what happens. But if there are other ways that we can be supportive, we would really very much like that. So thank you.
Just to add on to Kathy's about the resource fair, SASH actually started 2 years ago. Actually, 4 years ago, I started in the Deerfield Valley. I was told the wellness fair would never happen. We've held our 4th one in Deerfield. We've held 2 in Bennington, and the next one is planned for October. So definitely watch for that. And last year, we had 26 vendors.
Great. All right. Thank you very much, all of you. And Shannon, thank you for, Shannon Barsati, thank you for organizing that and pulling these good people together for us tonight. I really appreciate that. I don't know how our technology is doing, but the next item on our agenda is the UCH Head Start program presentation. And do you folks need technology, or you're all set? Okay. We look forward to hearing what you have to say tonight.
And Donald, could I make a statement while they're getting set up?
Sure.
I was fortunate enough to have with me several of the past select board meeting minutes. On May 13th, this board, in public session, reviewed with UCH the lease proposal and voted to accept it unanimously. So it's not been hidden, and it's been discussed in public meeting and acted on publicly.
Okay. No, let's ask her.
Okay.
Shannon, you going to set this up for us?
I get to do the introductions tonight. So Betsy asked me to start, and then I'll hand it over to UCS and to Goldstone Architecture. Just to give a little bit of the perspective of the town's partnership, because this is very much a partnership with all of these entities. The partnership between the town of Bennington, United Counseling Service, and the Berkshire Family YMCA has been exciting for me to work on, because we're beginning to realize the potential of the Bennington Rec Center becoming a community center with programming for all ages. We all know, that everyone loves the rec center, but there's just so much potential of how the programming there could expand. Both because of the community need, because of its centralized location, and because of all of the partners that we now are really working together with. So the idea of expanding the rec center has been discussed for years. Just a few of the studies that have been done One of them was the 1994 Facilities and Infrastructure Analysis Capital Plan, which really looked at a larger expansion at the rec center. Also in 2003, there was a study done by Centerline Architects that also looked at adding on a gymnasium to the rec center, among other things. The town's Park and Open Space Plan, which was commissioned by the Planning Commission in 2009 and then adopted into the most recent town plan, also looked at the need for an expansion of the rec center for both community economic development and health and wellness. So this is something that's really ongoing. Then there was also a Bennington Recreation Task Force that came out of the Vermont Council on Rural Development meeting that happened in 2013, 2014. And that report also highlighted this idea of expansion of the rec center. And then continuing into the present with the YMCA working group that began meeting, probably had met in different iterations before then, but really came together again in 2016 and now has led to this partnership with the Berkshire Family YMCA. So it's important to know that history going into this, and that this idea of a rec center expansion didn't just sort of materialize out of thin air. It's been something that's really been a great desire in this community for many, many years. And some of the things that have been highlighted in those studies and different working groups was the need for more recreation and physical fitness programs for youth, better access to childcare, especially near downtown, indoor recreation spaces for all ages throughout the winter, community spaces that are welcoming to teenagers, an indoor gymnasium with coordinated sports programs, and an indoor walking and running track. So those are some of the highlights that came out of those studies. So the town has been working with Goldstone Architecture and UCS on plans for what we're calling phase 1 of a rec center expansion, which is funded through Head Start and UCS. And UCS is going to talk more about that, along with Goldstone will show the plans of that expansion, which is coming up. And then the part that the town is playing is to also work with Goldstone on conceptual plans for a larger phase 2 and what we're calling phase 1A, because we looked at what are the immediate needs of the rec center right now, and how can we utilize this opportunity while construction is going to be happening with the UCS expansion to particularly expand the weight room and create some more space there now while we have the opportunity, and some more natural light as well. So Jeff and Jack will talk more about that. And just to go through a few, which they'll touch more on, some immediate improvements with phase 1 that include the UCS expansion are a new playground that's going to be open after school hours, an improved entrance to the rec center with much more space, natural light, and gathering space, a commercial kitchen and a community cafe, a multi-purpose activity space, and increased access to the basement with an elevator. So these are all things that UCS is bringing to the rec center at no charge to the town. Improvements with phase 1A, which would be town-funded, are more usable space in the weight room and more natural light. In a sense, as I said, it makes sense to do this while the building is already being worked on. And then phase 2 would really be looking at long-term improvements, which would take much more of a capital campaign for funding from the town, grants, et cetera. A multi-court gymnasium with a running track, improved recreational equipment and multi-use community rooms, more health and wellness programs for all ages, youth development and prevention programs and space for those programs, improved locker rooms, and improved pool seating. So, and viewing areas as well. So that's just kind of the big picture view of an entire expansion of all 2 phases. So I'll hand it over to UCS.
While you're coming up to the mic, I want to apologize for saying UCH instead of UCS, but it was
No, actually, that's accurate.
it's on this, and I thought maybe there'd been some name change that I didn't know about.
It is accurate, actually,
Okay.
because it's United Counseling Service and United Children's Services, which is Head Start.
is a corporation within UCS, so it's accurate.
Okay.
Confusing, but accurate.
Okay.
That's right. So I'm Lorna Matern. I'm the Executive Director of United Counseling Service. And thank you for having us in again this evening. We're very glad to present to you our update with the project. Just so you know, we have hired Breadloaf as our construction management firm. As you heard from Shannon, we continue to work with Goldstone Architect to look at conceptual drawings, which they'll show you. Some of the concepts we're sure on, like the footprint, like the community space. Some of the concepts we're not entirely sure on, like being able to receive funding for solar and for some of the entryway. So there's still a little bit in concept. Betsy's going to talk a little bit about programming. Beth's going to talk a little bit about the committee with the Y and the commitment with the Y. And Jack and Jeff are going to talk about all phases of the rec center and the expansion and the concept drawings that they brought today. And so I'm going to get out of your way and get Betsy up here, but I would encourage folks that when you ask questions perhaps about the concept is to wait until Jack and Jeff are done, because you can really see the transformation of the Bennington Rec Center through their presentation that I think is really important to see.
Okay, we'll hold questions to the end. Thank you.
Well, I can't tell you how excited I am to be here today. We are just really pleased with what you're going to see. We hope that you are just as pleased with what you are going to see. And when we were meeting about this presentation, we talked about how we've been able to do everything we wanted to do, still remaining within the same footprint that we came to you with almost a year ago, and still were able to fit everything in that we wanted to fit in. And that includes 5 classrooms. They will be 2 preschool classrooms and 3 infant-toddler classrooms, adding another infant-toddler classroom to our community, and 1 classroom that's a little bit flexible. It can break into 2 infant-toddler classrooms if need be, or it can be a preschool classroom. We've really tried to be very innovative in our design. We also have a commercial kitchen and what we're calling a kids learning kitchen. To me, is really an exciting concept. Working with the rec center, working with the Y, working with all the different agencies that we have and the community gardens, we're trying to develop a small kitchen that is based on 3, 4, and 5-year-old sizes so that they can actually cook. And we're really excited about what we're calling the Kids Learning Kitchen as part of this too. So we have lots of different activity spaces, lots of great multi-purpose spaces. As Shannon said, new entryway. I think you'll be really pleased with what you have to see in front of you, and it's been great to work with Jeff and Jack. So I'm just going to turn it over to Beth to tell you about our community initiative. Thanks.
Thank you, Betsy. Good evening, Beth.
Hello, hi. I'm Beth Wallace. I'm the Family Community Partnership Manager for Bennington County Head Start. I've also was raised in the Bennington community, and along with Betsy, I'm so excited about this project, and I'm just really grateful that I've been able to be a part of it as it's developed, because this is something that we've, as Shannon was talking about, been talking about as a community for decades, right? Anytime we talk about the rec center in the community, somebody has a connection. Somebody, half of us worked there as teenagers. We went to teen nights. Our kids go to swim lessons or are on the swim team. We all have a hand, and it's just so great to see it finally working toward its potential, right? So one of the things that I'm really aware of is the need for good communication around a project of this size, right? And we have a lot of different players. We have the town, we have the YMCA, we have UCS, and then other partners who we'll be working with. So communication for me is at the forefront. And what we decided when we met with the town and the Y together was that we needed a predictable opportunity for citizens, for rec center members to be able to receive updates about what's going on, programming updates, but also construction updates. We know that people have a lot of fear about the unknown, and it can sometimes feel like things are happening behind closed doors. So the pulse meetings that you've caught wind of, Jeannie, are going to happen bi-monthly. So every other month, starting August 21st, at 5:30, and we decided to host those at the Senior Center because we want to bring people to the Senior Center and raise awareness of where that is on Pleasant Street. What did you say, 4 doors down from Your Belly's Deli? So that'll be jointly hosted by the town, by the Y, by the Senior Center, and by us to bring programming updates, bring construction updates, receive feedback, because we know that we can't think of everything, right? There are going to be things that rec members might bring to our attention and say, well, have you thought about this? Or we need access to this. And we need to know about that ahead of time. So we really wanted a predictable opportunity so you can say, you know, I've got this question in my mind and I know that on this date I can raise that question or provide that feedback. So 5:30 every other month, starting in August. And we will advertise that on our Facebook pages, you know, the Y's, the Towns, Head Start's and UCS's Facebook page, Front Porch Forum, Bennington Banner. If you have other ideas of how to get the word out about those, we're open to ideas. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jeff Goldstone, Goldstone Architecture, and Jack Beyer, who has been working with us throughout this project, is going to give the presentation running down the design as it stands today, as soon as I give a few introductory comments about that. The status of the project, the design of the project, is nearing the completion of what we call the design development phase. At the end of this phase, and we hope that ends this week, we should have the footprint of the building, the basic massing of the building, the systems, how the building's going to be built, pretty well determined, and that's what we're hoping that what we present to you tonight represents. We've been working with our consultants, mechanical, electrical, plumbing consultants, structural consultants, civil engineers, and we have Nick Myron from MSK Engineering, who has been working with us on this here tonight. If there are any questions regarding the civil engineering. The team, of course, has worked very closely with UCH, and we continue to do so. We're meeting every Friday afternoon at this point, and these long meetings have led to a tremendous number of improvements in the plans, so you'll see those improvements today. We presented to you several months ago, as was mentioned by Betsy. I don't think it was nearly a year ago, but many months ago, and at that time we gave you a 3-phase process, which we discussed, the first phase being the United Children's Service addition, the second phase being a renovation of the first floor and the addition of a gym, I believe, at that time, and then this addition of a second floor as part of a third phase. We've rolled that into 2 major phases now, not 3. So we have the first phase being the UCH phase, the second being the town-funded phase, as was described. Phase 1A is a small amount of work which is incorporated in the first phase, but will be funded by the town. Again, Jack will point to those parts of the project as he gets there. Breadloaf is our construction manager. As you know, Breadloaf is working on the Putnam project now as well, so they have a major presence in town, and they've been running construction cost estimates along the way. At the end of the design development process, we should have a pretty strong sense of where we are budget-wise, but we feel like we're in the ballpark at this point for phase 1. I want to mention in particular some concerns that were raised for us and that we've tried to respond to, because these concerns are valid and we took very seriously that the town had brought to our attention, and they included such things as the possibility that there be reduced light in the natatorium, in the pool area, the need to continue to have chlorine delivered, liquid chlorine delivered to the basement of the pool, as well as the ability to bring equipment in and out of the basement. And so we think we've responded to all the needs. We've been reviewing this with the town staff, and we have made a number of changes to accommodate those needs. So again, if you have questions about any of that, we can show you as we go through the plans.
Jeff, can you raise the microphone up?
Yes, but now I'm done. So I'll pass it over to Jack, and he's not as tall as I am. So.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Jack.
Jack Beyer with Goldstone Architecture. And I'm going to attempt to go through the plans with you to describe the physical nature of the existing building as well as the proposed addition for phase 1 and for phase 2. And I'm going to try to use this little red dot here to point some things out. So this is the existing site. It's about 9.12 acres. And right here is the existing building, rec center building, parking lot out in front. ball field to the west, playground here to the east, tennis courts further east. This is the Morgan Springs area. The community gardens is in this corner here. Basketball courts here, town maintenance garage here. I think that covers volleyball courts up in this area here. Next. This is the existing building footprint, first floor. And I'm sure a lot of you know this building, but just to kind of give you a quick understanding for this presentation, we obviously have the natatorium, the pool building here. Adjacent to that, we have the men's locker room and the women's locker room, main lobby. And by the way, the entrance to the existing facility is now on the east side of the building. When it was originally designed, this was the entrance to the building, but many years ago that had changed, and currently the main entrance is on the east side of the building. The parking lot is out here to the north, with this being the exercise room and a couple of offices in this area. Next. And it's a one-story building with a partial basement. This portion here is a slab-on-grade construction, so no basement there. Come down the stairs from the first floor, and we have essentially 3 activity rooms here, a storage room, lots of mechanical space, electrical space. We've got an existing second means of egress out of the basement area. Obviously the pool structure with the surrounding mechanical equipment spaces for the pool. This is a model of the existing building, just to kind of give you a sense of, if you haven't been by there recently, what it looks like now. A couple of different views of it from different angles here. Basically a one-story building, flat membrane roof on the east side, continuous, and a pitched gable roof over the natatorium structure. So the proposed phase 1 construction, and as we go through these, you'll see things in color here. Essentially, the green color represents a phase 1 construction, and blue represents phase 2. You'll also see, as we go through these, some hatched colors instead of solid colors, and they represent a renovation of an existing space versus a solid color, which is an addition, a new construction. So again, here's the existing facility, and the proposed addition for phase 1 is this structure here in green, and it's about 11,500 square feet roughly. And you'll see that how it's situated on the site. It will front the parking lot with a proposed new entrance to the facility that will act as an entrance for both the rec center, pool and locker room, exercise room, et cetera, that is part of the rec center, but also an entrance to the existing community spaces in the center here and the classrooms and the Head Start facility on the west side. The impact and improvements to the site would include sort of a plaza entrance area here out in front of the new construction, and an expansion of the existing parking lot. Currently, there are 69 parking spaces, and we'll be adding about 25 parking spaces to that, all on the west side. So it's just an extension of the parking lot on this side. It's hard to see in this diagram, but there's an existing curb cut here that's going to be relocated to here to make this work. Additionally, for those of you who know the rec center, and it's a little bit confusing as to the organization of the vehicular traffic in the center area there, and so we're proposing a drop-off lane, which would be separated by a small mountable curb kind of thing that would divide that from the rest of the parking lot area. We have 4 handicap accessible parking spaces over here, and we've got relocated the existing ball field in order to be able to provide the room for the addition as well as the related playground area for the preschool classrooms and the Head Start classrooms. The plan for this fenced-in area as a playground for the preschool would be that it would be closed to the public while in use by the classrooms and the kids that are there. But then when school is not in session, it would be open to the public for public access to the playground equipment inside the fenced area. Okay, I'll go on to the next slide. So this is the proposed first floor plan. In the green, again, is the phase 1 solid area is the addition, and this area up here is in hatched green area is a proposed renovation of the existing building. And you see I've sort of outlined this area as what we're calling phase 1A. And that is essentially the area that is being proposed by the town as an improvement on the existing exercise area to provide more space. And you might remember, we can go back, I hope, to look at it, but this is where the existing offices were. And in working with the town staff and the current director, it was determined that those offices are not really needed. They prefer to, have the staff out with the people and the public. So the better use of that space being proposed is to expand and for more equipment space rather than offices. Just to kind of go through the basic layout of the proposed addition. Obviously, the main entrance, which comes in from the parking lot at the north. Main public lobby that you would come into, reception area here, elevator. Access to the existing facility would be through this sort of sub-lobby space, and then you can get into the rest of the facility, the pool and the locker rooms. Going this way, this is the multi-purpose community and Head Start recreation space or multi-purpose space, and the idea here is that this room can be utilized by the school, by the classrooms, by the teachers, by the students as an indoor playground during inclement weather, but it also can then be used by, for other purposes, for other functions, by, access from the public lobby side. We do have 2 toilet rooms here that would also be accessible from the multi-purpose room in the event of a community event that would have a secure door into the Head Start facility. So this multi-purpose room is really a shared space, and depending on how it gets really the specific operation of how that goes on and who's manning it and that kind of thing is something that UCH and the rec center staff would have to work through. We also have a commercial kitchen here, which would be in order to provide the meals and snacks for the classrooms for the kids, but also potentially for other events that might go on in the community multi-purpose room. Adjacent to that is a small cafe, which again could have lots of different uses for certain community groups to come in and try to make something and sell it as a fundraiser, or even to be able to supply snacks, beverages, etc. for people who are at the rec center wanting to work out and want to grab a snack. But as Betsy mentioned, we also have this kids learning kitchen adjacent to the commercial kitchen, and the idea there is that all the appliances would be accessible to small people, and that they could learn the skills of cooking. And it's also, because it's directly adjacent to the commercial kitchen, there's actually like a glass wall between the two, so it's an opportunity for them to not only do the cooking, but also to sort of witness the professionals in their, in their atmosphere and sort of an excitement of watching what's going on in a commercial kitchen. The classrooms, as Betsy mentioned, there are 5 classrooms, and they're all laid out along the west side of the addition here, with the most access to light and access to exterior patios and the playgrounds that are fenced in for the classes. And these 3 are dedicated to infant toddler classrooms. This one is a dedicated preschool classroom, and this one is the one that Betsy referred to as the flexible classroom. And essentially it's more or less 2 classrooms with a big opening in between them that it currently will serve as a second preschool classroom, but as needs change, they have the option to be able to divide that into 2 smaller classrooms as they see necessary. And then all the support and offices are located on this sort of interior. I should mention this great hall. We termed this open and curved hallway that's kind of the circulation spine of the building here, because it's sort of, it directs traffic in a way down through the space, but also provides these little niches that are off of it, opportunities for activities and things to occur, sort of within and adjacent to what would be typically just a hallway, so it's sort of making use of a space for multi-purposes again. But basically all the offices and support, we've got laundry and family services and other kind of support staff are all in these offices at this point.
Jack, excuse me, is that the natural light wall where the natural light controversy was?
Yes, okay, so these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 existing windows that you all may be familiar with on the west side of the pool, they're about 3 feet high by 3 feet wide, and they're up pretty high on the wall, and currently they're providing natural light for the pool. And I should back up just a second to say, if you think about, and I should have pointed this out on the site plan, but the site is very, even though it's a large site, it's 9.2 acres, there's not a whole lot of area that you can actually build on because of the constraints of the site. So we were, sort of forced to build on this side of the building, and recognizing that, we were going to be covering up those windows. We wanted to address that, and that was certainly a concern that people had brought up that we wanted to make sure we addressed. So what we are proposing right now is in the roof of this 1-story structure here, which is about 2 feet lower than the eave of this gable roof, are what we call little doghouse structures, essentially, that over each one of these windows will have a little doghouse structure that continues the slope of the existing roof and marries that with a flat roof and a skylight in each one of those. And that will allow that natural light to be able to continue to penetrate into the existing space, but also into the new space where, the interior rooms, it's hard to get natural light into those spaces. So that provides dual function for that. And, even to the extent where if you're standing on the pool deck or in the pool, you would, have a vantage point to be able to look out through that window, through the skylight, and actually see the sky. So, we recognized that there was an impact, it was brought to our attention, and we certainly tried to respond to it with a solution that, we felt was sort of the best we could do in terms of providing, continuing to provide the natural light in the pool. So essentially, this is a 1-story space, a 1-story addition building with a partial basement. And although I'll show you in the next slide, this section of the building is also a double height space. It appears as a 2-story building, and I'll go through that this keeps cutting out on me. You go down in the basement, and you might remember from, one of the first slides, the existing building spaces here. Again, new addition. This is a small area of renovation in order to make a connection between the new and the existing. The existing stair is still serving as access to the basement area, and we have provided an emergency exit stair out of the second floor to take the place of the one that we were covering up by the addition of the building. And I'll also point out that this stair is made 5 feet wide with double doors at both the bottom and the top in order to be able to provide good access for equipment, materials that need to be brought in and out of the pool mechanical space. Again, this was, concern that was raised by the recreation staff or the town staff, and we tried to respond to that in a responsible way. And you can see the pair of doors here that we're planning on putting into the existing pool mechanical space. And again, that's going to provide good access in and out of that space as is needed. So the elevator, obviously providing handicap access to the basement, which it currently did not have. So this elevator now serves the ability to use these activity rooms for people who have a disability, and gives them the option to utilize those spaces that they weren't able to do before. In addition, we have sort of a lobby area that's sort of unprogrammed. It's additional space that again, with the coordination and the collaboration between UCH and the rec center and the Y, that can be an opportunity for some programming that may work out for that space. But additionally, the storage for the Head Start, food supplies, cold storage, as well as dry storage, and obviously mechanical, electrical space to support the services for the building. And then moving up to the upper level, we're calling this the attic plan. And this is basically the central portion, the sort of community link of these two functions is a 2-story height space, with the community multi-purpose room being a 2-story high voluminous space. So sort of the feel of a recreational, like gymnasium, so it's a tall space with lots of different kinds of activities that might be able to go on there by having a high ceiling in that space. This area is also double height space, and these are just some beams that we're proposing to put in at the second floor level. The elevator will be able to serve this, and this is all leading to the potential phase 2, which I'll show you in a minute, that this is essentially being done to be able to allow for an ease of the second floor expansion in phase 2, which you'll see in a minute. And just an unfinished attic space in phase 1. So this is an image of the building, model image of the building, the proposed building, when it would be complete in phase 1, or after phase 1. Obviously, with the main sort of focal point of the facade being the main entrance to the building, and the existing building being to the east, and the proposed new building being to the west. And I will tell you that this was extremely challenging from a design perspective in terms of thinking of the mass and the form of the building with regard to an existing building that's fairly I don't know, what's a polite word to, it's help me out. A beautiful building, but really the challenge, both in terms of designing a new addition to complement and the existing building without diminishing it, and also thinking about the potential of a phase 2 addition and what that might mean in terms of the impact to the overall form of the building. So it's very challenging. I think that we obviously, I'm very proud of the the form that we've developed, and we'll go through a little bit why, like for instance, these are the classroom spaces, and when we go through some of the other views, you'll see them. This is the view from the northeast, and so again, we have the existing building here in front, unchanged essentially, with the new entrance structure and multi-purpose room and the Head Start on the opposite side. So this is a view from the northwest, looking more at the classrooms. And I'll mention to you that we're still in the exploratory stage of the facade in terms of the treatment of the finishes. We're obviously, like every project, there's a budget, and so we have to be mindful of that budget and try to make sure that not only are we providing a building that that's aesthetically pleasing and that sparks excitement and is visually appealing, but it also has to fit within the budget. So we're still working on the details of what specifically the materials are and whether or not they fit into the budget or not. But this gives you a sense of sort of the way that we are envisioning sort of breaking down the masses of the building and treating them with different types of materials and textures. We really tried to present the classrooms, being that they are for little people, in a way that is something that they could relate to and something that speaks to the fact that these are very young people and that what they might be familiar with might be like building blocks and Legos and things like that you can almost see these forms were developed from that kind of a mentality that it really speaks to what's happening on the inside, learning about the basic building blocks and that kind of thing. Again, we're still playing with texture and color and all that kind of stuff with regard to what the materials are and how it fits into the budget. But each of these are a module that are the same size and the same shape, and these are individual classrooms. This becomes that flex classroom that is really 2 spaces, and this becomes the preschool classroom. And the idea behind the slopes on these roofs really came out of the desire to to try to make to have the classroom space have a little bit more of a volume feel from the interior in terms of a high space and something that's a little more interesting than just a flat ceiling. So we have exposed beams and that kind of thing going on the interior. But it is also that we're trying to hopefully be able to put some solar panels on these roofs. So these roofs are all facing directly south, tilted to the south in order to be able to pick up the best angle for the sunlight on proposed solar panels. But at the same time, on the north side, we're showing a lot of windows up high, which allows for a lot of natural light, indirect light to come into the classrooms and flood those interior spaces that are sort of, enveloped by the rest of the building. So we've got a lot of natural light coming into those spaces, and north natural light is best because you don't have to worry about glare and overheating and taxing the systems in order to compensate for the heat gain. So I think by sort of thinking through all those things, I think it really sort of developed into a very interesting building in terms of its form. And as you see these little patio areas outside of the classrooms where the kids would come out, there's little fenced areas, so it sort of allows the teachers to sort of contain the kids and then go out into the playground area, so there's sort of a level of being able to contain the kids. Just a couple of images from above, looking at sort of the improvements of the site and how it relates to the building. Again, we're trying to sort of create this plaza effect that would encompass the entire front of the building with some nice specimen trees and some benches, some light bollards, again with the drop-off lane that would come through here, trying to make it safer. The bollards help to, sort of give you that visual barrier between what was a pedestrian area and what's a vehicular lane.
Jack?
Yes?
Can you see, is there a place where we can see what the light addition in the pool area?
Yeah, unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to, and I apologize for this, but those would be occurring right along here, the dog houses that I was talking about earlier. So what were there, 6 of them, I think, or 6 or 7? So at each one of them, over each of those windows would be this little doghouse structure with a skylight in it. I'm sorry that we don't have an image of that. We can certainly follow up with you with that.
That's helpful, just to know.
Yeah, that would be right in this area here. So where the flat roof meets up with the slope roof of the pool. And so then there's phase 2, and I'm sorry, the colors are kind of washed out on here a bit, but so phase 2 is essentially happens mostly in this area right here. So this is the proposed gymnasium addition, which is a 2-story structure, essentially, basketball courts and volleyball, et cetera, on the first floor, and a running track elevated above at the second floor level. And then this area here is proposed as the addition on top of, a second floor addition on top of the existing 1-story structure. And that you'll see when we get to the plans is where the additional exercise rooms, things for yoga and other types of exercise classes that can occur in those spaces. And when we get to the plans, you'll see that a lot better. But I wanted to just show you the impact of the site. Essentially, everything from this line up was all part of phase 1, and the impact of phase 2 on the site is really related to this addition and taking what was 3 outdoor basketball courts, and since we are converting and having, indoor basketball courts now with the indoor gymnasium, we've got 2 outdoor basketball courts instead of 3. So this is the first floor plan for phase 2, and you can see in the solid blue here, this would be the addition to the building, which is on the south side. The main entrance again is still here, and access to the gymnasium and the other parts of this addition would be from the public lobby through these spaces down this corridor. And so the hatched area is what we're proposing as the renovated space for phase 2. So you can see we've got a full-size gymnasium here for basketball court, as well as several volleyball courts and several pickleball courts. Storage associated with the gymnasium, being able to access the exterior from here, exits, etc. This would become the women's locker room, this renovated space here, with a men's locker room over here. A couple of family-style toilet rooms accessible to sort of the general population. And what I personally love is this pool observation gallery, which I think is a real need from the facility. If any of you have kids who were on the swim team like I have, I've been to many swim meets at this facility, and they're very difficult, both from the perspective of the athletes, but also from the perspective of the parents and the spectators, because there really is no place to watch a meet or an event. Plus, even if you're bringing your kids to swim lessons and you want to be able to watch them, but you don't want to sit in the very humid environment of the pool atmosphere, it's a place that you can go to sit and watch what's going on in the pool. Natural light, right? So we also this area, you'll see on the next slide, the second floor structure actually starts from this line and goes this direction. So this is still a 1-story structure here, and it gives us the opportunity to put some skylights, some solar tubes over each one of those windows that we would be putting in for the observation gallery, and again, to try to bring that natural light into the space. A sauna, and pool storage here, and again, additional opportunity for pool observation. Again, if any of you have been to any of the swim meets in any other places, there's just literally hundreds of people that come to these swim meets and no place for them to stand or sit or watch. So the more opportunity you can give to provide viewing to the pool, the better off you are, because people will try to find every little piece of glass they possibly can to see what's going on. So on the second floor, so what again proposed new addition space versus renovation, and in the phase one portion of the project, we've provided the shell, the insulated envelope, both roof, walls, etc., for the potential to add square footage to and access to the proposed second story addition. So this area would end up getting a floor, and this would end up getting a floor and become a finished space with a stair being put in to access those areas. Again, elevator is going to be provided to be able to access the second floor, so that would be the opportunity to have accessible floor-to-floor convenience. Basic lobby space, and as I mentioned, these are the exercise rooms. We're showing 4 of them here with a little lounge space in between. This existing stair would be extended up to this level. And the idea here is that one of the main things that was flexibility in space. It's always there could be 20 people, there could be 2 people, there could be 40 people, and so flexibility in the space was something that they were really looking for. So this space could act as 1 room, or it could act as 2 rooms, or it could act as 3 rooms of different varying sizes, depending on what kind of activities are going on in those spaces. And the equipment that's currently located on the first floor below here would then move up to this space on the second floor. And we're also proposing a rooftop terrace, which, might have some, it might be a green roof if we can do it, but just a place to be able to, you're working out, you're exercising, whatever, a place to just step outside, get a breath of fresh air, take a drink of water, and, maybe between your sets or whatever, between your activities, and go back in, as opposed to having to go down, to the first floor, go out of the building, and then have to come back in. So a nice, feature to be able to just step outside while you're up there. I guess I'm thinking I missed the phase 1A. Did I? I really didn't know. Okay, all right. Maybe we need to. Okay. So I guess that covers that, right? Oh, and the running track, right. So, as Shannon pointed out, a lot of people have been, expressing interest in wanting a indoor running track. So this is a fairly common approach to providing an indoor running track above an open gymnasium area. And this, could also, sort of the corners could end up having, equipment placed there. So, for sort of faceted fitness, you can utilize that space as well. So looking at the exterior of the building, and again, these are following the same sort of views of the building, with essentially what was here in phase 1, and then this is the only portion from this angle you can see of the additional phase 2, and you can see the building sort of set back there, and in front of that is the terrace with some plantings up there. And we didn't show this, but we sort of came up a little bit late when we were talking about things here, but the hope would be that in a phase 2 project, given that this building was built in 1969 or something like that, it's very minimally insulated and not energy efficient. So in a project like this that would be of the size and magnitude of this phase 2 expansion, we would certainly propose to to put additional insulation on the exterior walls of the building, as well as the roof areas that might be still exposed, to provide a much more energy efficient building in that future phase. And that would give us the opportunity to tie that element in a little bit better with the proposed finishes of the phase 1 and phase 2 additions. And again, just going through the different views of the proposed phase 2, obviously the gymnasium structure here, the classrooms and everything had been here, everything else. You can see that, we're showing rows of solar panels up on the roof of the gymnasium. It's obviously a lot of square footage to be able to utilize for capturing solar energy. So that would certainly be the hope, to be able to do that as part of the project. And there's a couple of aerial views looking at the full, complete phase 1 and phase 2 project.
Great. Thank you very much. That's a very in-depth. We've seen this several times, and it gets better every time we see it. So thank you very much for all the work. And I think it's really nice to hear that you've been taking feedback from town and other users to make sure that this, as the evolution of design happens, that those things get factored in. So thank you very much for that. Is there anything else that you wanted to say before we allow the board to ask questions and then possibly the general public?
No, I didn't touch on the funding, just in case anybody's still curious about that.
You better, yeah.
So,
come to the mic, please, yeah. Thanks.
We're in the process of finalizing our federal grants, which is about $3.5 million. And we are looking at several other grants to help us complete this because, as you know, budgets always tend to grow. They don't tend to shrink. So we're hoping that we will go forth and break ground somewhere in October and that we will have kids in this building in September 2020. So that is our goal for a timeline. It's very ambitious, I keep being told, but that is where we're at with timeline and funding. I didn't touch on that just so I can come around to that again. Okay?
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So that presentation ran a little over, I'll be honest with you, but it was worth it. It was worth it because it was very detailed and we got to see a lot of the inside workings of what we haven't seen before, and so thank you for that. But I would like to ask the board to try to stick with, this is not the last time we'll see this. We'll be seeing this many, many, many times, and there'll be a lot of iterations as we go through this, and there's a lot of, we've seen it many times already and we'll be seeing it many times again. So I would like to ask the board if you have questions at this point as far as the whole project goes that seem like particularly timely questions that we want to ask now before other opportunities get foreclosed.
Jean has one.
Jean.
If the question's inappropriate, I'm happy to wait.
I didn't mean to mute you in any way. I just mean we'll have many other opportunities to ask questions.
Okay. I'm just curious, having spent many hours at the rec center myself, there's a very large concrete apron kind of around the front of the building especially. I'm just curious how much green space the addition is going to take up. If I'm remembering, it's not that much.
I don't know if we don't have an image of the existing site with the existing building.
I guess ultimately my question is, you're not losing a field?
We're not losing it.
Okay.
Everything that we're displacing is being relocated.
Okay.
And it's a very small, to your point, slice on the side of the building that is not used currently for any recreation or any use of the facility, by the grounds. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Bruce? No. No? Okay. Jim?
I have one quick. Betsy, will Head Start run year-round in the new facility?
Yes, We offer childcare year-round, and that would be our expectation. So the multi-use space, again, will be available weekends, evenings, in conjunction with what some of the rec center plans are and those types of things too. But we do offer year-round childcare, which I think is really important.
Just stay there for a minute, please, Betsy. Any other?
I just have one quick question, I guess regarding phase one. What will the impact be on the current users of the rec center? Is there any anticipation that the rec center will have to be closed for a significant time, or?
So the reason that we chose Bread Loaf, and maybe Jeff or Jack can also speak to this, is because of their commitment, their solid commitment in operating the rec center full tilt. There might be small times where something has to happen, like water lines or electric lines may need to, but we do not anticipate, correctly?
Yeah, so
I'll let the expert answer that one.
there are a couple points at which there will be some disturbance. We've talked to the staff at the rec center about this. The biggest one is that in order to expand the building to the degree that we're doing, we will be putting in a fire sprinkler for the entire building. It's not fire sprinkled as it is. Larry McLeod is very anxious to see it fire sprinkled, and the cost of the fire sprinkling is part of the phase one cost. So there will be some time when they're hanging pipes in the pool area where obviously we haven't quite pinned down whether the pipes have to go over the pool. This is a discussion we're having, whether we need to sprinkle the pool itself. But certainly on either side of the pool will be running pipes. So there'll be some shutdown for that. There'll be some, as Betsy mentioned, some very minimal shutdown to the electrical service while we divide off the service for the addition. And there is a small amount of structural work that we have to do to the roof over the natatorium, the sloped roof, because it was built at a time when I believe they calculated 27 pounds of snow per square foot, and we now designed to a minimum of 40. So anything we do that affects the snow load in any way on that roof, we have to compensate by increasing the capacity of that roof to carry that snow. And there are a couple small pieces, like right behind the elevator, where we're going to have to be into the ceiling of the natatorium. Fortunately, that side of the natatorium, we don't have to be over the pool deck, the pool itself, it's over the deck. Other than that, yes, there will be times when we are disturbing the practices, but we've talked to Bread Loaf and to the staff, and these are very minimal, and they'll be coordinated.
Jeff, are the roof pitch changes part of the phase 1A funding?
Pitch?
The change of the roof pitch that you just talked about?
No, I'm sorry, there's no change to the roof pitch.
Okay.
The pitched roof is understructured, so when we do anything that adds snow load to the pitched roof, we have to reinforce the roof
from
in
below.
place.
I
Yes,
see.
and that is part of phase one, yes.
That is phase 1, okay. Thank you. Bill, you got something for us? No?
I think it's beautiful.
Can I just add one thing about the sprinkling system? When I applied for all this funding, the feds were very happy to continue to fund all of our dreams on here, except for the sprinkling of the rec center. They said it doesn't have young children attached, it's not part of our funding stream, so UCS, UCH has committed to funding that piece of the project, just so you know, that's local or UCS, UCH dollars going in to do that sprinkling of the rest of the building.
Wow, thank you. So the whole building will be sprinkled in the end. But Betsy, before you leave, we're talking about $3.5 million. Is that phase 1 and phase 1A?
That is phase 1. Phase 1A is a conversation with the town and where you want to go with that project.
Okay. And then phase 2, just to be clear, I think everybody understands this because we've seen this presentation many times, but phase 2 is still a dream, an aspiration, and there's no funding committed to it yet. We are still thinking about how we would get this done, but wanting to design the rec center in such a way that a significant renovation could happen if we can fund it in the future. Have I got that right?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yep,
great.
thank you.
If there are no other questions from the board, I would invite questions from the audience. Nancy? Yeah, please come up to the mic if you would. Thanks.
What did you say the size of the addition was going to be?
The square footage, the footprint of the building is about 11,500.
Jack, I'm going to ask you to come to the mic. I'm awfully sorry. It's the Cat TV folks always appreciate that.
What the addition will be?
Yeah, the addition footprint of the building is 11,500 square feet, roughly.
That's what you're adding?
That's what's added, yep.
Okay, last July, we were told it was 5,000 to 7,000 square feet. I've got the minutes with me here. So it has doubled?
No,
Well, no, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out.
I can't
So the
respond.
outdoor basketball courts are gone? Oh,
Not
they're
in-
still there?
Not in Phase 1. There's no change to the basketball courts for Phase 1, which is the only project that's really funded right now. Basketball courts are, I don't know if you can see my first.
So we haven't paid anything for this, nothing towards any of the architecture?
There's a small contract between our company and the town. For the second. For the second phase planning purposes, correct.
And I didn't hear anything about a price tag? That's been the big concern with everybody in Bennington.
Yeah, sure, we can understand that. Again, the funding that we're doing for Phase 1 is all federal dollars. As I like to think, that's our federal tax dollars coming back to the town of Bennington. The town tax rate is not being attached for anything for Phase 1. So the $3.5 million is what we have to pay for Phase 1. Phase 2, we haven't even begun to look at the price tag of.
Okay. Just my opinion.
Yep.
No, just my comments. I think it was Mr. Campbell said last year that UCS was getting the best part of the building. I certainly think they are. I think we are losing green space up there. It goes back to that community visit report. I'm aware of what a lot of people would like to see and wanted for Bennington. It seems like an awful lot of those wants are getting dumped up at the rec center. As far as partnerships go, no partnerships with the citizens, no partnerships with the taxpayers. These are plans that you have done amongst yourself. These are concerns I've come to these meetings and raised for the past 3 or 4 years, how we aren't included. These projects get dropped on us as a done deal. I want to know when we will be voting on this.
Voting on what?
I'm sorry?
Voting on what?
Voting on whether we want this to happen.
I believe you've been at all the meetings we've been talking about this. You know that
No,
we've...
I wasn't here at this first
Well,
meeting.
so we've been talking about this all year, and prior to that, we've been talking about it.
That's not up to me to get it on about. That was you to get it on
And we've done a
ballot.
lease to UCS because we think this is a good project. We've looked at several designs. We've looked at a lot of programmatic opportunities, and this has all been in public session. And so they now have a lease to do this work. And they're bringing the money, and they're going to give us, our community, a tremendous gift.
They're bringing the money, and they're taking a major part of that property for their use.
They're taking a little side lawn that's not used for anything else, and they're creating tremendous indoor space that this community wants.
Well, I'm aware of the studies that have been done, maybe 300 or 400 people. Nobody's talked about a price tag yet.
Well,
I hear what you're saying for
I think
Phase
she just
1.
did, but I understand you're price sensitive. We are price sensitive too. Phase 2 is a question how we would pay for that, but we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about getting Phase 1 done. We're talking about getting the elevator room. We're talking about getting the sprinkler system in. We're talking about getting the community center room in. We're talking about getting a proper entrance. We're talking
I'm not
about
sure
physical
that all
improvements
the
on the outside.
community wants that at the rec center.
Well, we think they do.
I know that okay. So will we be voting or not?
No.
What about the why?
We have a contract with them at this point. Stuart, am I missing anything?
How can you have a contract with the why?
We have a year-long
Just for this year?
management agreement.
We have
yeah.
a management agreement which terminates December 31st of this year.
Yep.
Come September, the Y is coming back to us to propose additional opportunities, whether or not we can continue to work together and how we might do so. And that'll be a decision that's made by this board probably in September, late September.
Okay. Again, why are we not voting on whether or not the why comes here?
The select board has the authority as the elected representatives of this community to determine how the spaces that the town owns are used.
We're doing the will of the people as we see it.
So are they going to be managing our public facilities and our public budgets?
No.
No.
They aren't.
No.
No, we continue to own them, and we continue to have...
Okay. Why will they not answer specific questions about how they're going to make money in Bennington?
I have no idea what you're talking about, Nancy.
When they fundraise, what do they keep for administration costs? Do they keep a percentage of memberships?
I have no idea.
And you're not concerned about that?
Well, at the present time, Nancy, the membership fees come to the town
I
entirely.
understand that. I understand
Entirely.
that.
And if in fact the Y is successful in creating new programs here, I think their hope is that they will increase Y memberships at their other facilities. But at the present time, this board will control the rates that are charged the customers of Bennington and other residents who use the facility, and those funds will come to the town. In our contract with the Y, we may pay some of those funds back to them for the employees and for the programming that they're providing to us, but that has yet to be determined.
Okay.
Other comments from the citizens? Mary, come on up. Oh, I'm sorry, Rose, I wasn't very clear. Mary first and then Rose.
Just had a question for Betsy. With the federal funds in the beginning, is there any type of match that the town has to pay? A lot of times there is with a federal grant.
It's a good question, Mary.
Okay.
That is a good question. Thank you, Mary.
So as you know, most of our federal grants require a 25% match. We have asked for a waiver for this because we're a small rural community, and coming up with that match is undue harm and hardship for us, so they are considering that match. We are considering some of the lease over time as part of the match, and there's a lot of goodwill that's going into this project, a lot more than just what you see here, so we always are looking for matching dollars, but the town itself is not responsible for that match. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. Good evening, Rose.
Good morning. I've noticed all this stuff that they're talking about. I haven't heard one thing to do for the seniors. Am I wrong?
I believe you are, but there are people that could talk to the programming probably better than I could.
So the community space that we have designed as you walk into the building, we see that as a wonderful opportunity for multi-use space that can be generational. So if the seniors want to have an evening of movies or something like that, that multi-use space in the beginning is very friendly to all ages and stages. Also, adding the elevator is one of the key pieces to this project that we talked about in the very beginning to add accessibility, because as you know right now, you can't get down to the lower level of the rec center, which has a lot of fitness rooms, but that elevator will now make that accessible. So we have thought about this for phase one. Phase two has a whole host of opportunities for generational pieces there, but phase one will provide access and use to all ages.
I'm not impressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can't believe when you get older, are you supposed to lay down and die? I'm serious. It's like everything is kids, which is fine, and I know I've said it before, but still, I haven't lived here, I've lived here probably half my life, and it's nothing like it used to be. I can remember when you would walk downtown and really actually enjoy it, love to be there. You're not worried about somebody mugging you or all this other riffraff that hangs around there. It was a fun place. It was no big place. It wasn't all this fancy crap. It was simply stores that you could go in, Fishman's, Woolworths, and it was terrific. And it was, there's no comparison to what it is now. I think it stinks. And it don't look like a town that's going to be doing as well as you think it's going to do. What do you have to offer except promises? Excuse me, but most of them, most anybody sitting there isn't poor. We're not rich. I think you have no idea of money. It's just like, you know, oh, it's only money.
Rose, thank you for your opinions. We are doing this to partner with UCS, one of the most important partners in Bennington County that will help us with childhood services, particularly the services of the more needy community that need places to have educational opportunities. We're also creating this to be in service to other users that will be elderly, that will be all walks of life. So this is not something that's being done lightly. This is something that is a major move to try to make Bennington a better, more enjoyable place to be and to do better for our population, the very population that you're complaining about.
And I would say, I mean, I think this is so exciting. It's like what we are getting for $3.5 million is incredible.
Well, for nothing, really.
It's incredible.
So we're getting it for nothing. The $3.5 million is coming from the federal government. This is a huge gift to Bennington. I'm sorry you're not impressed, but I don't know what to tell you. If this doesn't impress you, nothing will.
They can't even, we've had times we've not had a teacher. Now you're telling me how good and how everything is great is going to be? It's a bunch of crap.
Okay, Rose, you're moving into inappropriate at this point, so make your point and sit down, please.
It's the truth. Sometimes you all right, I've said enough, but.
I'm sorry, for those of you who have just given us this wonderful presentation, I'm sorry about that. But listen, it's part of how things roll. So you do have a right to have an opinion. I'm very upset that you would stand there and say you're unimpressed by this gift to our community, this $3.5 million gift. Yes.
It is actually, yes.
All right. So, is there anything else that you folks would like to say as part of this presentation? Shannon, do you have anything that you wanted to add on this?
I'm just very, as I said at the beginning, I think this has been a vision for many years it's been discussed, and now through the efforts of UCS, we're really getting there. Instead of just talking about it and dreaming about it.
Feels like we're really moving. Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. So, Rose, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off. Rose, you're out of order. You're out of order. I'm sorry. You're out of order, and you're not to speak right now. What's that?
Can we have a room? Let's just leave the room. Let's take a break.
We're just going to stop, Rose. We're going to stop.
Thank the Goldstone architects, Jack and Jeff, have given a lot of their time and energy, many, many hours that I think they don't bill us for everything in order to make this all, be able to be seen today in its entirety. So thank you.
Well, most of us in the room are extremely grateful, so thank you all for that presentation. All right. All right. We are going to move on to item number 7, the ratification of assurance of discontinuance. And you all have read this. We've seen it in executive session. The two key points that I would highlight in this agreement that we have been asked are as follows. This has to do with the fine for the wetlands permit on the salt shed, and this agreement would, under number C, without formally admitting or denying wrongdoing or liability, respondent agrees to the settlement of the violations alleged above in order to resolve all outstanding disputes. And in K, respondent shall not be liable for additional civil or criminal penalties with respect to the specific sites and facts described herein occurring before the effective date, providing that respondent fully complies with the agreements set forth above. So we have seen this. Our attorney has recommended that we sign it. For the purposes of discussion, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve this?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a second? Second. Okay. Motion's on the floor. Any discussion from the board about the ratification of assurance of discontinuance.
I have a quick question. I know that there was something about a variance a little bit ago, and my question is this the final step? We're closed, the whole thing's done, there's no more work that needs to be done, nothing more the town would be liable for, whether it's permitting or fines or anything like that? This is the end?
This is the end. This is the final step.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bruce.
I guess I wanted to say a couple of things. One, I had asked Stuart, and he did respond to me in quick order about the possibility of bonding insurance basically paying for this, and that's apparently not available for this kind of a thing. I guess I would agree that this is the best agreement that our attorney can possibly get for what's happened. And so it's about a quarter of what they could have penalized us for, and I get that. I also, here's where I'm coming down. I have really two problems. One, the motion doesn't tell the public how it is we're going to pay for it. I know we've gotten a memo about how the town proposes to pay for it, but the motion doesn't include that, and I can't support a motion that will not include that. And secondly, I guess I know that I will be in a minority here, because I actually don't think that the state, I don't know, and I can't say for sure, but I'm not sure that the state will go back on this if I vote no. I suspect there's a majority on this board that will accept this assurance of discontinuance. My only dilemma is I have to walk out into this community and talk to folks who ask me, are the taxpayers of Bennington going to pay for this? And the answer is, yep. And I think that stinks. And I don't have an alternative. If I had an alternative, I would give us an alternative. But I don't have an alternative. But I still am not sure that I can vote for it. And I know I can't vote for it if we're not going to say, this is exactly what we're going to use to pay for it.
Well, I mean, Stu, you can certainly go through this. This is not confidential information, right? So I would say, one, probably you should.
Yep.
Okay. And then if we need to amend the motion, I think it's no problem. But this is not confidential information.
Not at all.
No, in fact, this was prepared simply to address Bruce's concern, which he did mention to me earlier today. And basically I'll run through this. The agreement calls for an initial payment of a combined $1,030, which goes to the A&R, another $769.86 to the treasurer, which covers the legal fees that A&R expended in the negotiation. It also requires a monthly payment of $865 a month until the total payment of $20,925 is paid. And that is a combined cost of the fine and the legal fees. We have currently in reserve, still in the bond reserve, $9,869.86. If we then discount the initial payment, which will be made as soon as the court has accepted the agreement and issued its findings, we have 30 days in which to make that initial payment. It will leave a balance of $8,070. We will have $7,785 still in reserve to cover the lion's share of that. But beyond that, there remains to be paid $11,055.14 over the course of another 12 months to pay off the entire debt. They gave us 2 years. We should be able to do so, and all of it depends on the timing of the court. but it'll be $865 a month for 12 months with a final payment of $675.14. So the taxpayers will be asked to come up with the $11,055.14. The remainder of the money is already in reserve in the bond.
Could I back up and touch on something Bruce said for the two of us that are new, but this is not something insurance covers, correct?
That is correct.
That hasn't been discussed here since I've been here, so.
That's why I raised it.
Thank you.
This, what we're looking at here, this assurance of discontinuance, is an agreement with the state. It's not a personnel matter with our town manager, and so I just ask everybody to make sure that we keep those things separate. We have had a conversation with our town manager. It's probably not appropriate to talk very much about it, but I would say that there were financial repercussions to our town manager, and they are ongoing. And so it's something that we feel is behind us from a personnel point of view. I think when you work for an organization, as our town manager works for us, you need to know that if you make a mistake, your organization will try to work with you to make things better. And there were a lot of confusing circumstances that led up to the salt shed. It was not a decision that we necessarily support, but we understand and we have dealt with the situation to our satisfaction at this point. So all I am asking this board tonight to do is to say, do we want to take the advice of our lawyer and sign this assurance of discontinuance so that we can close the books with the state and know they will not come back to us for anything else to do with this? And if there's anybody that feels like they would like to leave the door open to the state coming back and renegotiating with this, then don't vote to approve it. But we have already discussed it in executive session. We did ask the town manager to sign it, but we do need to ratify this in public session if we're going to go through with it. Other comments? Mary?
Could I just ask the question as to what was the total cost of the salt shed project?
I don't have that off the top of my head, Mary.
What was the bond, sir? It was
The bond was for $3.2 million. But that included purchase of the building, renovation of the building, the construction of the salt shed. I just don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay, well, what was originally applied for the grant, the federal grant that we lost as well?
We didn't lose the grant.
May I finish, please, Stuart? Is that it was applied for a $340,000 grant. The town would have paid $85,000. It would have been a total of $425,000. That was what was applied for. The banner at one point indicated that the project was $450,000. So which was it?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I don't know what the final cost of the salt shed was.
Well, and also probably let us not fool ourselves. The town is paying for the whole project with the salt shed, because in my conversations, even recently, even though I was before this board a year ago, at the end of February, when in my committee we were told that the town declined from taking the $340,000 grant. And at that time, you said it was because of the cost. What it was because we didn't follow the first steps going forward, where the salt shed was already being constructed, and we didn't do the permits and the environmental pieces that we had already done. Quite honestly, when I spoke with them recently, they were not surprised that the town of Bennington was fined as we're talking about right now, because of the many pieces we did not follow through in the process.
Well, let me clarify for you, Mary. When the town began the process of acquiring the property and designing the renovations and including the salt shed, we had engineers on board. We had gone through a bid process for construction of the shed, for renovations to the facility itself. All of those things were already done when the grant was applied for. Now, people who encouraged us to apply for the grant were well-meaning, had their heart in the right places. The unfortunate part is that, as you know, federal grants have a 20-step process. We were already at step 19. We would have had to go back to step 1, start all over. Competitive bidding for engineering, competitive bidding for contractors, competitive bidding for design.
And I understand all of that. They explained.
It would not have made sense, and had the state looked at the application that they received, they would have known we were already beyond where they would want us to be in order to give us the grant. Unfortunately, they were anxious to get the monies out to the communities, and this was a project that they thought was a really great project. Unfortunately, the timing was wrong for us.
And in the
we were
email,
therefore not eligible.
the email that was sent to me just as recently as a week ago said it was never indicated in the application that the salt shed was already under construction.
Well, I'm not even sure it was under construction when we got the grant.
Yes, it was.
It was designed.
It was under construction because they said they would never have awarded the town of Bennington the $340,000.
And they're right. They should not have awarded it to us.
Well, had we been upfront, and this wasn't your first...
Mary, please.
This was
we were
not
upfront. That application was put together with the assistance of the Bennington County Regional Commission and encouraged by the Agency of Transportation. We were perfectly upfront with them, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
So, Stu, we never would have gotten that money, right? I just want to make sure I understand that, because that was so that unless we did the project in a different year.
We were so far beyond the process of where the unfortunate part was we were not aware that the funds were available until we were way down the road.
Okay.
And that's, the timing issue is what hurt us.
Gotcha.
Say that again, that bears repeating, Dan.
Say it into the mic, please, Dan.
Say it to the mic.
Not that we weren't aware of the funding didn't exist when we started the project. That was not a funding source for this project at the time that we began the design and the bidding process.
So that money never would have been able to apply to this project?
No.
Okay.
So, and we've had that explanation a couple of times. Thank you, and I'm sorry to put you through that. But that misperception about that grant has lingered for a long time, and I'm sorry about that. But what we're talking about tonight is the ratifying the assurance of discontinuance to try to close the books on this single piece, and we've had an explanation of how we're going to pay for it. We're not going to talk about the personnel issues around it, and unless there are any other comments from the board, I think we should call the question.
Do you want to amend the motion?
Yeah.
Sure. How would you like to amend the motion, Jean?
With the financial information that Stuart provided, or do you want me to read through it?
Let's see.
It's already been read.
Can we
The
just
record
say
ones,
that?
can we
With
just
the
say
payment,
as read by?
the payment plan that's been made public?
Yes.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Yep. So, Nancy, we're going to amend the motion.
Jeannie made the motion.
Yeah. So I'd like to amend the motion to include...
To reflect
the payment schedule that's been read into public record.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. All right, I'm going to call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
I'm going to go no, too, on this one.
You can vote no also. Abstain? Okay. So the motion passes 5-2. We're on to the next thing, and that is liquor licenses. What do you got for us, Stuart?
The East Road Variety Store has changed hands, so a new second class liquor license is required, and I will simply circulate this for your signatures. Wait a minute. I got the wrong one. I will circulate this one for your signatures. Thank you.
So, while the liquor license is being circulated, would you like to launch into a manager's report, Stuart?
Pardon me?
While the liquor license is being circulated?
Yes.
Or would you like me to do something for a while?
No. I'm catching up here. Manager's report? No. Yes.
Yes.
One action item tonight, and this will also be required to be circulated for your signatures. Periodically, the state of Vermont revises its road and bridge standards. In order for us to qualify for grants such as Class 2 paving monies or structure funds that come to communities through the Agency of Transportation, we must adopt these standards. We have adopted them in the past as they have been modified, and once again, the state has modified the standards and is asking us to approve them in order to qualify for that funding. And I can either simply circulate this for signatures, or you can make a motion to adopt them. Perhaps that's the best thing to do, and then I'll circulate for signatures.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Fantastic, thank you. In other information that is out there, you've all received the Energy Committee and Housing Authority list of applicants. I know you had talked about doing interviews when new candidates come forward, as in the case of the Housing Authority opening and for the Energy Committee itself. So I leave it to you to set a date, perhaps at some point down the road here, where you might meet in the town office conference room and conduct those interviews with the applicants that we have. And at this point, we have not closed applications for the Energy Committee. So if the people are out there and they're still interested, just send a request on to me, and I'll make sure that the board gets it.
Stu, can you give me a sense of how often this committee will meet?
I can't give you a sense of it.
It's up to them?
It's really going to be up to them. As you know, we have 3 contracts that have been let on the PFOA. Construction should begin within a matter of weeks. This will be construction along Route 7A, up into Apple Hill, and Michael's Drive, and as far up, I think, as Settlers Road. Those are, I think, the 3 contracts that have been let. The 2 remaining are East Road and, I'm sorry, Chad, it doesn't quite go far enough.
No comment.
Are East Road and Chapel Road, and those, I think those bids will be open soon. So the project is underway to address the final remaining homes that have suffered with PFOA contamination. Wastewater treatment project, we had a meeting last week. As I indicated in my report, things seem to be experiencing a slowdown. We are back on pace, and that meeting, actually, we were back on pace before the meeting took place. So I'm happy to report that all things are go once again, and we seem to be moving along at a very good pace out in the field. We have not set a new closing date on the Morgan Spring Delivery System property. We found one other environmental concern that has to be addressed before the closing can occur, so we don't have a new date for that yet. However, in my report, I indicated I would be meeting with a potential new vendor on July 8th. I'm actually, Dan and I are going to be on a conference call tomorrow morning to discuss this potential vendor and their participation in the project costs. So I'll have more to report.
July 8th.
July 8th is today.
I know, I just corrected that. I'll be tomorrow morning.
Oh, sorry, okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry, that was my typing.
Can I ask, can you talk a little bit about, so what is that process when you meet with a potential new vendor? What happens?
Well, in this particular case, this vendor has expressed an interest in purchasing our waters. And as you know, Ice River is currently delivering water and purchasing water from Vermont Pure. They would like to have a direct contract with us. Ice River has recently been sold to Premier Waters, and so we will be talking with the owners of Premier Waters tomorrow. They would like to have a contract with us, and they are also interested potentially in participating in the project cost in order to, for a time, get a reduced rate for the water to help offset their cost.
Good. That's the deal we've been looking for.
It is, and we'll see how far it goes.
And so,
Thank you. Push it hard.
once you hear about that, then it comes back to
Yeah,
us?
of course.
Is that-
It would come back to the select board in the form of an agreement, and you folks would get to vote on it. And then the last piece I had here, I had a lengthy conference call with the AG's office last week. I think it was last week, might have been the week before. Time flies. Apparently, there's a lot of talk about a major settlement of the federal case. There are now 6,000 litigants against Big Pharma, and the judge in Ohio has ordered, and everyone seems to have agreed, to look at a process called a supermajority settlement negotiation. And the AG's office is actually encouraging municipalities, because we will be a part of it, to participate, not necessarily litigate, but somehow participate. And I may have a way that we might want to do that, but it is a legal matter, and I would like to discuss that in a brief executive session after this meeting, although we've gone a long time here, but time is of the essence in that particular case. So
there has already been a vote on this by the select board, a vote of support too.
So it is, things are moving. It's likely that the negotiations will take some time, but the judge is very interested in making a decision on how that negotiation goes forward, and ultimately it'll be a settlement among the parties as to how whatever funds are ultimately paid out are divvied up among all of the litigants. And it's my understanding, at least from the AG's office, that every municipality in the United States that has suffered in some form from opioid abuse will receive monies, whether you litigate or not. It's a class action settlement.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Stuart, for that report. We're going to talk very briefly about our upcoming agenda, which is somewhat lean for this summer. The thing that we have on I think, Bill, we're ready for this to roll out the purchasing policy draft at the next meeting. So that would be, we're talking July 22nd?
Yeah, we had to close one.
We have one little piece. I think we figured we could probably get that done. So that will probably be on the agenda for the 22nd.
Great.
Unless we can't get that last piece worked out. Chad?
Well, my only concern, I thought there were going to be two people that were going to miss that meeting, and it might be a good policy to have
It's
the
just
entire board.
it's the
for.
draft, though.
Or it's just a draft? Okay, sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what we can do. We
Just
can,
concerned that, everyone should have an input on it.
we could do a two meeting presentation. We could present it on the 22nd. We could vote on it on August 12th.
Okay.
And that would give everybody a chance to have some input if they wanted it. Is that all right? Okay.
Perfect.
Thank you for that feedback.
Thank you.
Jeannie, I haven't missed anything, right? So we're also going to talk to, have an economic development conversation possibly with BCIC in August?
In August 12th. Yeah.
Right, yeah. Okay. So, more to be announced as we get closer. I did get an email from Bill, thank you very much, about a meeting you were going to have to miss. So again, summer schedules, if people have to miss meetings, it'd be really nice to know, so that if we're not going to make quorum, let's know that ahead of time. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go into a brief other business, and then we'll have to go into executive session. So let's start down at your end, Bill. You got anything for us from other business?
For any of the seniors who are interested, I finally made my trek down to the Y, so I'll be there this Thursday between 10 and 10:30 as people roll in. Happy to hear your thoughts if you want to share them with me.
Just something real quick, I happened to be without a vehicle about 2 weeks ago and still had to get to football practice on time and got to use some of our trail network and was really, really impressed, riding the bike through town. And if you haven't seen it, the Bennington area trails map, they're amazing. Check out some of these trails, it was a lot of fun.
Great, thank you.
Nothing.
Jeannie?
Nothing.
Jim?
I have nothing.
All right, well,
Wow, I have a lot. First of all, I'm not going to be here next meeting.
okay.
And so neither is
Yeah,
Shane.
I think I knew that. I did know that.
I just wanted to congratulate the McCullough Free Library for the Penguin Random House Library Award they're in the running for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought that was really great news. The pump track event, you were there.
Yeah.
That was
yeah,
very
that
cool.
was fun.
The fireworks were amazing.
Yep. Pride Parade too.
Pride Parade was wonderful.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, the Pride Parade, that's right, I forgot about that.
Yep. A lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, that was amazing too.
Chills all the way down.
Yeah.
All right, we have a need to go into executive session. I would support a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make a motion that we move into executive session.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.